All right, the title of this panel is Democracies Don't Despair. You don't need a speech from me to talk about this. Let me just introduce the panel, and we're going to get their thoughts on why democracies should not despair. And then maybe we'll ask a little bit about Ukraine. But let me start at the end there. Garry Kasparov is the chairman of the Renew Democracy Initiative. Hanna Hopko, the co-founder of the International Center for Ukrainian Victory and head of the ANTS network. And to my right, Minister Paul Johnson, the Minister of Defense for Sweden, and Jenny Carignan, the Chief of Defense Staff for the Canadian Armed Forces. So let's do this a little differently. Let's start, Garry, with you. Let's start with civil society. Why do you think democracies should not despair?
Are we talking about democracies as institutions or democracies as democratic countries?
Which do you prefer?
Yeah, I would do with the latter. I think democracies must not despair. Actually, it's not about don't. It must not. We have a lot to be proud of. I mean, the world that is built around, it's done by us. I mean, just recently, we knew that the virus came from China, vaccine from us, from the free world. And also, when we have any doubts about our institutions, whether it's in America, probably less in Canada, definitely in many European countries, we should look around and just, Ukraine, Venezuela, Iran. There's so many countries where people are fighting for democracy against all the odds. I used to say that, if Russian men had the same courage as Iranian women, probably Putin would be overthrown. So there's nothing wrong with democracy. Democracy is a powerful idea. I think what is happening now, and it's not about being desperate. It's because probably desperation in democracies now, it's a luxury of rich. Countries are just, their life is too good. It's complacency. We heard this word today. Lack of vigilance. And it's all of a sudden, everybody's surprised that Putin is so bad. I mean, he's in power for 25, God's sake, years. And he was not secretive about his plans. I mean, we can blame him in many crimes, but I mean, as many dictators before him, he was very clear about his intentions. The collapse of the Soviet Union was the greatest geopolitical catastrophe of the century. That was said 20 years ago. He set up his plans of restoring the glory of Russian Empire openly, and then move step by step. Yeah, we can say a lot about this so-called peace plan, which is, of course, a deal. It's nothing to do with a plan. It's a deal, and we know why this deal is being negotiated. It's nothing to do with peace, rather than with glorification and financial interest of certain people behind it. But Putin got emboldened early. Georgia, 2008. Who was the president in 2008? Oh, Bush. But then Obama rewarded Putin after this aggression with the reset policy. 2014, Obama was in the office. What was the response? Nothing. Syria. I mean, it's a long list of things that Putin did, and there was no response. And of course, this is Ukrainian war. It's almost 4 years. And what was Biden's response to this war? We'll stand with Ukraine as long as it takes. Takes what? To make a deal with Putin? So Vladimir Putin heard nothing but hesitations, weaknesses, and the word, Senator Shakin, I apologize, please don't say escalation. This is the word that dictators, they get really excited when they hear it, escalation. Yeah, of course we have to escalate, because they do. And as for instance, Venezuela, I mean, it's not a regime change. If we talk about democracy, it's restoring the will of people. They went to the elections, they won elections, everybody knows they won the elections, and now we're talking whether Maduro, I wouldn't call president, dictator, who is building his power on Russians and Chinese interference, is a threat to America or not. Of course, anything that undermines democracy is a threat. So we have everything except political will. And our main enemies, corruption and impotence.
Hanna Hopko, Ukraine does not have a choice. Let's be honest. It cannot despair. It needs to keep fighting. But how has Ukraine maintained, despite a lot of fear in the country, how is it maintained not despairing? And why do you think it's so important that democracies don't despair?
Thank you for this question. So I arrived from Taiwan here to participate in the Halifax Security Forum. And before I visited Japan and South Korea. So where we presented this paper, The Russian War in Europe as a Global Laboratory of Modern Warfare. So here we analyzed how Russia, China, North Korea, Iran institutionalized their alliance against democracies. And North Korean ballistic missile KN-23, their accuracy in 2023 from 3 kilometer now is reaching 50 meters. So this is how North Korea is benefiting from supporting Russian genocidal war against us. So China, 80% of sanctioned dual-use items are being provided from China to Russia. So let me ask, why Europe import from Russia exceed the financial support to Ukraine? So this is how we Ukrainians would like to ask the question to the democratic world. If you want democracies to prevail, you should not just observe how Ukrainians are sacrificing the best of our nation. So this is really important. And today is 12 years ago when Ukrainians began the dignity revolution. Because it's in our DNA, dignity and freedom for centuries of Russian imperialism. And actually this week we are also commemorating the victims of during the Soviet Union, Stalin man-made genocide, Holodomor. So, but we survived a century ago when almost 8 million people were suffering from Holodomor, when Ukraine used to be and is breadbasket of Europe. Ukraine became a spiritual basket of Europe. It's not just about being a true democracy. It's about, and I try to explain in Japan, that they need to finally cut all restrictions and actually to transfer their technologies and cooperate with Ukraine. Can you imagine that 11 years ago, when Russia invaded Ukraine, so actually this was just the green man which Russia sent to Crimea. So now this is the modern warfare, when the battlefield is fully transparent, because this is the war of drones, electronic warfare, where Ukraine performed, I would say, perfectly well. So we, from the recipient of international support, we became a donor. So now Ukraine could teach US, NATO countries how we invented Delta system. A month ago, I couldn't imagine that I will join the Fire Mobile group and spend a night to shut down Shaheeds and to use Ukrainian interceptor drones. And I encourage, by the way, all of you, when you are in Ukraine, come and spend the night, because it's great to see Kiev, St. Sophia Cathedral, which was built at the beginning of 11th century when Moscow didn't exist. But actually you need to get a new knowledge. Because I ask people in Tokyo, what will you be doing when you see 500 drones from North Korea, together with ballistic and cruise missiles? Do you have a plan? Are your society ready? So this is why when I hear this appeasement to Russia as an aggressor state, which commits genocide against Ukraine, I don't understand what's happening with the United States as a leader of free world. Which side the leaders of the leadership of the United States are now taking? Yeah. The Ukrainian people who are fighting for all of us, or war criminal?
Which brings us to General, Minister. You guys each get one easy question and one hard question. Minister, you get to go first. Which would you like first, the easy or the hard one?
I'm a politician, so I will start where I can ask for the easy one, but I'm no one going to get the hard one. Because,
no, you can have the easy one first, all right? All right, let's do the easy one first. Why should democracies not despair?
Because of what we're seeing in Ukraine, to my mind, this is the front line between tyranny and democracy. The Russians aren't successful yet in Ukraine. I think the Russians took less than 0.5% of the territory at the casualty of several hundred thousands of Russian casualties. At the same time, you see the Russian economy is really bleeding when it comes to inflation. We see long queues up to the gas pipeline, the gas stations there as well. So let's be steady on that. That's a source of inspiration. in combination, what you're doing with ramping up your defense industrial production, which I think is really, really inspiring as well. So let's use the frozen Russian assets as well, invest straight into your defense industrial base, and you will be the one who delivering most of the capabilities to your armed forces. The other thing that gives me a little bit of hope also is there is an awareness inside Europe right now that we have to shoulder a larger responsibility for our own security, and we're willing to put our money where our mouth is. I think it's very significant that we're all gonna go up to 5%. That's absolutely necessary. So what we need to do now really quickly is to transform economic clout into combat power. I think that is the challenge for us, but money is coming way. Last point gives me hope a little bit, and this is going to be self-serving, but I'm glad what I'm seeing also on the northern flank. I think the northern flank of the alliance is being completely transformed now with Sweden and Finland inside the alliance. This used to be an area of unpredictability when it came to military planning, because we and the Finns were not integrated in NATO's common defense planning. Now we're all in that, and we're becoming a much harder target. That's good for the whole alliance. I was here last time actually in November 2022, and then Sweden and Finland, there was a big PR hype about us joining the alliance, but I think both the Swedes and the Finns, we felt a big responsibility. Let's also turn this into a tangible success as well that makes difference for peace and security. So I'm glad that we're serving together with Canadians. We have mechanized battalion in Latvia, that we are the framework nation, as it's called, for FLF Finland, that we were able to provide our Gripen fighters over the airspace of Poland, and what we're doing together in the Baltic Sea. I think that has strengthened. So we're safer, and NATO is stronger by that as well. So thank you for being the first country also to inviting us here, or ratifying our application.
And you ready for the hard one?
Yeah.
Okay, 28-point plan includes Ukraine giving up the rest of Donetsk.
Yeah.
All right? Again, territory Russia's failed to capture in 11 years of war. That becomes internationally recognized as Russian but demilitarized. The U.S. would then recognize the whole of Donbass, occupied Crimea, and the occupied portions of Zaporizhzhia and Kherson as de facto Russian. Full amnesty given to all parties, meaning no war crimes pursuit. And in exchange, the U.S. security guarantee says a significant, deliberate, and sustained armed attack by the Russian Federation across the line shall be determined a threat to peace and security of the transatlantic community and may lead to an armed response. Zelensky describes that as choosing sovereignty or U.S. partnership. Should Zelensky choose sovereignty or U.S. partnership?
Yeah. Few things, basic principle, it has to be the Ukrainians who decide. Russia is the aggressor, and therefore Ukraine chooses if and how it negotiates.
The U.S. has given Ukraine the choice.
Yeah, but we as Europeans have not responded to that. I haven't seen anything on paper yet, and I want to say that's a caution. But a few principles that we've been bringing to the table when we've been sitting is nothing about Ukraine without Ukraine. The Europeans really need to be on board, because we're going to be doing a lot of the work once a ceasefire or a peace agreement comes into place. I think that's absolutely crucial that we can be part of it. One thing I also want to stress, where I would strongly advise against, would be hindering Ukraine from becoming a possibility of joining NATO. I come from a country which I was pretty darn glad that the window was open so we could join NATO. And being left, we had the Europe before of these gray zones and buffered zones. Yeah. It's not in our interest.
So let me be clear on that. Would Sweden ever support language that is in here right now that would require NATO to change its rules to, quote, never allow Ukraine in the future, unquote?
That would go against Article 10 of the Washington Treaty, which says that the alliance should be open to all European countries if they qualify for the merits of it. And that's a hard sell. And I mean, we fought very hard for keeping Europe open, free, and united. I would advise against going anywhere in the other directions.
But with all due respect, President Trump has set a deadline for Thursday. Thursday. What can Europe, what can Sweden, what can Europe do, what can NATO do, forgive me, North America as well, if President Trump says, okay, no Pearl program, no Europeans buying American weapons to send to Ukraine, and no U.S. intelligence, and frankly, especially on the defensive side, there is no replacement for U.S. intelligence for Ukraine. What can Europe really do?
Listen, I mean, on the Pearl, we provide...
Pearl is the program that sends... Europe buys the weapons from the U.S. to send to Ukraine.
I mean, the message coming out from Washington was clear. Okay, the Americans were focusing on other places, and it was great that we could buy weapons from the Americans and send to Ukrainians. We provided 2 Pearl packages from Sweden as well for it as well. Of course, we have to ramp up production, and what you're doing inside Ukraine, I said, is really impressive as well when it comes to increased weapon production. Of course, there are some things we can do as well in regards to the intelligence side and so forth, but the more we can do aligning the European position and the North American position, the much better it is, of course. And we're going to go the extra way in order to try to accomplish it.
General, easy question or hard question first?
Let's go easy first. Let's warm up.
Why are you not despairing about democracy?
Well, I would say, Nick, it would actually quite be easy to despair. Looking at the downslide of democracies over the past 15 years. So this is not a recent thing. It has been gradual over the past many years. However, we remind constantly ourselves that democracies have been built on very strong philosophical principles and values, and that inspires people. And in the long term, we are seeing the result of that, and we are definitely seeing that live with the Ukrainian fight at the moment. And again, the work that everybody is doing is in supporting Ukrainians' fight. So I think this is a clear signal now that we need to go back and take our responsibilities, because freedom and democracy comes with responsibilities, the responsibility to care, the responsibility to be vigilant, and the responsibility to fight for what we think is right. I also like to speak to the model of militaries that are nested within democratic systems. The militaries that are put together under democratic systems is a very powerful model in terms of creating those citizen militaries that will stand up for all the right reasons and values when it comes time to rise and do the work that we are doing. So basically, those responsibilities are all about, one, preparing, two, collaborating with allies and friends, and then finally fight when we are asked to do that.
Last question from me, and then we'll turn it over for the last bit. If Zelensky believes that his choice is existential right now, that he needs to choose between sovereignty and U.S. partnership, which one should he choose?
I think it's not a choice that is that clear, because they're kind of related to each other as well. And right now, at the moment, we are in a little bit of uncertain times, because that negotiation is ongoing. So we are at the start again of another conversation. So I don't feel that we need to stipulate at this moment about what means what, or who should be doing what, and what choice we have in front of us. The thing that is certain is that it is a very difficult choice to make at the moment. There's a lot of realities that come into play when it's time to commit and compromise for a ceasefire. A negotiated peace or a negotiated ceasefire is always better than the continuous human tragedy that we see happening at the moment.
Can NATO step in if President Trump follows through on the threats? And of course, we all know there have been these threats before. But if the threat is followed through and Thursday is the deadline, and Zelensky, as he's indicated, is not going to say yes to this deal, can NATO step in if the U.S. steps back?
That will definitely not for me to decide. That decision is going to be made by our governments.
But capable. I'm talking about
together as allies. Yeah. So I think we will adapt to whatever situation is being thrown at us. This is what we'll need to do.
Okay, so I'm going to open it up to as many questions as we can take. We've got about 10 minutes, and so let me look around the room, and let's start over here, please. Thank you very much.
So, hi, my name is Diana, and I'm from Ukraine, from Kyiv. Before I want to ask my question, I agree with every word that Mrs. Hanna mentioned. She told us very important things. And also, I want to say some words to everyone who is sitting right here with us, that, in my opinion, we must reach a unanimous agreement on democratic values, not only for saving one country, but to save our future. It's due to our democracy topic. And as I'm from the capital, from Kyiv, I think you can understand me pretty well. I remember clearly all the Russian attacks in my city, and sometimes it's get harder to express how our everyday life looks like. So my question is, do you believe there is a military scenario for ending the war in Ukraine? Which outcome do you personally consider the most realistic and why?
Wow. All right, General, why don't you take that one?
I think Russia is not winning. There is a lot of various counteraction that happened following this invasion. First of all, the assessment was that Ukraine was going to fall within a couple of days. That didn't happen. Far from it. Ukraine came together and is still fighting. There was another hypothesis that maybe that would fraction NATO. They would disagree on the various response that each country, each allies would come up with. That didn't happen either. And then finally, on the top of it, we have two new NATO allies that we couldn't foresee joining in such a rapid manner. So, if not, like NATO is stronger, and then I would say Ukraine has come together, and I think looking to the future, there's a lot of potential and opportunities for Ukraine to get even stronger looking forward, because democracies work in the long term. There are a lot of short-term gains by being an autocratic, and sooner or later, they usually collapse on themselves. At the scale of time, this is the dynamics that we are observing. So this is why we cannot despair.
Good. All right, let's go to this side of the room, although I'll keep my eye on over here. Anybody here? Yeah, right in the middle, please.
I'm Alexandra Hichi. I'm the president of the Ukrainian Canadian Congress. I've been watching Mr. Kasparov's body language. I know I don't need to ask a question other than, what do you think about all of this?
I'm getting desperate. This is the best show Putin can hope for. Not a single straight answer. It's not about how many weapons you have, ammunition. It's, are you willing to fight and die? Oh, it's nice. You have a Canadian-led brigade in Latvia. What's the order for this brigade? Will they shoot if Russians cross the border? We know the answer. It will take ages to negotiate. I still didn't hear a clear response to, it's not, I can't even imagine this. How can we discuss seriously the deal made by Trump's business partner? It's a real estate deal to enrich Trump's family and sell Ukraine. And how can we seriously discuss that Ukraine will have to give up fortifications that are saving Europe? We're celebrating NATO. NATO is not strong. NATO doesn't exist. It's a fake. It's NATO, 4 letters. The reason you are still sitting here and celebrating it, Ukraine is dying every minute. It's a massive sacrifice. If not for Ukraine standing in front of Russia, Russian tanks would be already in Poland. You all suggested that Ukraine would give up. You offered Zelensky a right. And he said, I don't need right ammunition. 4 years Ukraine is fighting for the whole Europe. NATO was built to fight only one war, not to go to Afghanistan, not to go to Syria, one war to save free Europe from Russian aggression. Ukraine is the only country that is fighting this war, and we're still discussing, should we include them or not? Ukraine is the only country that is fulfilling NATO's destiny. And we owe them everything. Oh, let's sacrifice them. And Zelensky is making, I don't know even how to explain this choice. As a Russian, I also feel guilty. That's why I cannot tell him, show Trump middle finger. But again, we have how many senators we have here? Are you going to tell Donald Trump that he cannot do that? You have 85 is more than 2/3, yes? If I'm out of 100.
Senator?
So, yes, how come that, this bill is still sitting somewhere on the floor of the Senate, and it's not still being done? Putin, Xi Jinping, all others, they are celebrating it. And by the way, Russia has North Korean, they have Cubans, they have Africans, volunteers. So, and we're still talking about escalation? We have everything, military, political, economic powers on our side, and we're still losing the war. It's thanks to Ukraine, Russia is not fulfilling Putin's dream of restoring a Russian empire. But if, God forbid, Ukraine is forced to make this deal, then very clear, Putin will realize his dream. And then, guys, you're next. But you are not willing to fight.
I'm tempted to get you to respond, but let's keep moving. Got another question here.
Yeah, thank you so much. Tawakkul Karman, Nobel Peace Laureate from Yemen. The question is not whether the democracy will despair or not, because democracy never, ever despair. Democracy is the survival. And people from Ukraine, people from Yemen, people from Arab Spring, who fight against dictatorship, who fight against occupation, they know that very much. When we choose the path for democracy, we decided from the day one that we will not give up. So the question is not with the democracy. The question is with the democratic people, with the democratic nations. Will they despair? Will they give up their values? Will they give up their promises? And this is, I totally agree with brother from Croatia, I think. Totally agree with them. Look, today, Zelensky
It's a great question.
No, I didn't.
Okay, all right.
Today, Zelensky said a very important thing, that Ukraine is between two choices, to give up its dignity or to lose its support from the US. Now, it is the question for the democratic nations. Sure. What will they do? Will they let them alone? Will they let United States, Trump administration, to stop their support? Yeah. I think they shouldn't betray Ukraine again, because it was betrayed by them from the first hand.
Minister?
Yeah. Well, Mr. Kasparov, you're wrong. We will fight. If NATO is attacked, all of us is going to fight. That's the only way for us to survive. We see what happened when you live under occupation inside Ukraine, and we see how they deport the Ukrainian kids to Russia. We're not going to live like that. So if Article 5 is challenged, I can assure you Sweden is going to fight. I can assure you the others are committed to that. The other one is how we support Ukraine. And you're right, with too little is being done from Europe. We are a few right now who are shouldering too much of the responsibility. I would see a burden sharing. My country, we've increased support for Ukraine every year. So we provided the Ukrainians with $9 billion of support, and we're going to provide another $8 billion in the 2 years to come. But we need to change that trajectory. There's some of our Southern European allies that need to step up as well. And if your stocks are running low, don't come and say that, because money will get you far away. We invested into long-range strike capabilities for the Ukrainians, both drones and long-range missiles, because Ukraine has the right to defend itself inside and outside of its territory. I think that's crystal clear. They're making good use of it as well, because they're hitting the Russian oil refineries as well, and it makes a big difference.
Yeah, quickly.
You want me to answer?
Well,
yeah, please.
You should look at the numbers of people in European countries that are willing to fight. So Finland is leading 80%. Then it goes to 14% in Italy, and most of the countries, just in Western Europe, they have, it's in teens. So like in Germany, I think 16%. So there's no willingness to fight. That's a problem. Again, with all the money, you are giving money, fantastic, but Ukrainians are dying. And by the way, have I missed Tomahawk towers? I mean, the missiles that can change the course of the war. The Crimean Bridge is still there. It's a symbol of Russian occupation. 4 years, and all guys, couldn't provide Ukraine with long-range capabilities to destroy the breach, which could be a very symbolic defeat of Vladimir Putin.
Gary, just let him respond quickly.
I've seen the same opinion polls. The same opinion polls show there was a low willingness to fight inside Ukraine. I think the proof of the pudding is in the eating. The Ukrainian people have shown it. The opinion polls show the low inclination to fight, but we've seen how Ukrainians are inspiring us all.
I just want to look around and see, one more question, I think, and then we'll give Hannah Hopko the last word.
Thank you for the panelists. My name is Ming Chang from Hello Taiwan. I'm sitting next to my colleagues from Xinjiang, Tibet. The notion of giving amnesty to war criminals, are we inviting further atrocity, setting up precedents for the future?
Yeah, Hannah Hopko, you have the last word. And again, just a reminder, again, it's a plan, it's a working document, but it does say there's a level of amnesty, a kind of amnesty. Neither party can pursue war crimes challenges, and that's part of the deal. So you have the last word.
So I would like to support Garry's. Crimean breach and to return Crimea is an achievable goal if there is a political will. First. Second, Russian economy is now in a very vulnerable situation. Putin has no money to continue this model of war, which requires very expensive mercenaries from more than 60 countries. This is the time to increase pressure and move from sanctions with incremental approach to total economic isolation. And this is what we expected that Trump will do, that peace through strength means secondary sanctions and mean real blow on the Russian economy. From European side, we do believe that confiscation of Russian sovereign assets will finally happen. The deblockade of Black Sea together with the Danish Strait will also happen without any excuses why it's not happening. Also about the security guarantees. We in Ukraine, personally, I don't believe in Article 5 of NATO. The only security guarantee is Russian de-imperialization. Russia must be defeated. Russian economy and Russia should pay reparations for Ukraine. And also Russian people living in the territory of different republics, they have their right not to be the cannon fodder like Burats, Kalmyks and others, which Putin did ethnic cleansing. And actually, to end this, my final remarks. Since for me it's very heartbreaking moment now, because this day we are commemorating the millions of people who suffered during the Holodomor genocide. And at that time, in November 16, 1933, Soviet Union was rewarded by the United States when they re-established the diplomatic ties. When Ukrainians were dying because of hunger, this glorification of financial trade and other happened. So my message to Trump, after this video at the beginning of this panel discussion, from Bible, no one can serve two masters. And you American people, nation of brave citizens, I do believe you will serve Ukrainian God's purpose to defeat Russian imperialism. And this is the mission of congressmen and senators here, to convince Trump that American leadership is to serve God. This is what's written in your dollar. We trust and we serve God. No one can serve evil, otherwise you will, I don't want to say it. Thank you.